building an indie business in the center of venture capital. I am Alex Edmonds. Some people on the internet call me SupremeRumHam, and this is the Building an Indie Business podcast. Alright, so today I'm going to be discussing the errors and mistakes that I made in the book process. This isn't just the launch, but the entire process. So I'm going to be talking about my mistakes, what I did wrong each time, or what I should have done. I'm also going to talk about the things I should have done, and then what I'm going to do the next time I release a product. Okay, so let's get into it. My first mistake was the fact that I didn't use any urgency in my promoting or anything, really. So there's these 6 concepts of persuasion, and one of them is urgency, and it's something very simple that I didn't think to add into my promoting. So I kept saying pre-order my book, but I didn't give a time limit, and I didn't say you can only get the pre-order until July 31st. I just said pre-order it, no urgency whatsoever. And then that's another thing. I announced too early. I announced the book too early. So I announced that I would be releasing a book in April, and the book was pretty much done by then. Well, not done. The book was, mentally for me, it was done in April because I had written about 3/4 of it, 75%. And I just add that 25%. I knew what I was going to write about. I just hadn't written it down. And so that's why I said in April, okay, I'm going to be doing this. So mentally the book was already done, but I said the release date was July 31st to give myself some time, because something always pops up. I started working in May, and I didn't know that was going to happen, so that pushed back the book a little bit. If the time I spent working, if I spent that time writing, I would have released the book even earlier. So there was no urgency, right? I announced it too early, and then I don't think people pre-ordered the book because they were going to be buying a very unpolished product. I didn't have the cover ready yet. When you pre-ordered the book, you just got sent the Google Doc that I was working on the book with. So it would take some time. You would have to come back every week and read the new chapter if you wanted to read the full book. You couldn't just read it right away. Yeah. Okay. The next area where I messed up in terms of promoting is Twitter. So I've been figuring out tweaking it around, but before this I didn't really figure out how to promote something on Twitter and make it all look very nice. And so that was one of my problems. And then I don't follow many people on Twitter. I follow 20 people, and those 20 people are famous people. They're musicians and comedians. They're not people in my industry. So my tweets don't get a lot of engagement. So every time I would announce something, it's not getting eyeballs on it, right? It's just being tweeted out into the Twitter sphere. Okay. Another problem that I had is that I stopped promoting the podcast and the newsletter on social media. And so I just happened to start an experiment like right before I announced the book, I started the experiment in March and decided to write the book in April. And so the experiment was, what is my engagement without promoting the podcast? And so I just wasn't promoting it like I usually do. I wasn't adding the podcast episodes to Dev2 or Reddit or on Twitter. So I'm getting less eyeballs on my stuff, and that means less people are hearing about the book and getting interested in the book. And then another thing that was the result, or another problem that occurred because I stopped promoting, is that it cost me backlinks. So I'm trying to improve, like, get organic traffic to my blog and the podcast website, and they're not getting backlinks because I'm not promoting it during this time. So now I have to do that over again, or I have to start that process again. And that was a problem. So then I started promoting again in July, and that kind of helped because that was where the urgency came in to buy the book at the pre-order price, because I was like, yeah, the book's coming out at the end of the month, which it did. So yeah, that's one thing. And then another problem that I created, or a mistake I made, was there was no schedule for the release of information. I would randomly release information because I would announce it as the information came. Like, I didn't have a cover at all until the 29th or 30th of July. And so originally I wanted to like make an announcement of the cover and like have a little release of the cover and announce it everywhere on Reddit, Twitter, Indie Hackers. But that never happened because I was so busy formatting the book and getting it ready to be released. I just got the cover and that was it. So no one was expecting anything, which, that means the stuff that I was promoting got no engagement. Okay. Another mistake I made was I stopped streaming. I stopped producing content. And that means that I wasn't at the top, in the top of mind for some people, because they weren't seeing my face and my content being created every week. Okay. Another mistake I made was I wasn't creating milestones on Indie Hackers. So the reason why this was a mistake is because it's free, right? And it's very good at visibility. So on the Indie Hackers milestones, you're at the top of their website, and if you get like in the section that you don't have to click on to see, like before you hit more milestones, that's pretty good visibility. I've gotten to that point, and I got like maybe 75 to 100 clicks because I was there. And so I should have created more milestones to get more clicks. I should have made a milestone out of the cover. I should have made a milestone out of like finishing each chapter even, just to get those eyeballs. I should have created a separate email list. I should have had an email list for the book, and so I could send out those same exact updates to an email list. And speaking of email, I should have optimized the blog for collecting emails. So before Shaw helped me with this, shout out, the Shaw on Twitter, I there was no way to, like, the blog, I don't know how to say this, but like, it was very difficult to sign up for the Open Podcast email list when you got onto the blog. So there was no pop-up sign-up form that showed up when you scrolled to the end of an article. There was no way to sign up for the email list in the middle of the blog post or at the beginning like there is now. Yeah, and so my first 2 articles that I wrote, blog posts, about interviewing and solo podcasting, those were my most successful Reddit posts, and those people on Reddit had no way to sign up for the email list. So yeah, that was unfortunate. Okay. Hiring. So, I've hired a bunch of affiliates for the book. I used Indeed.com. I will talk about this in a different episode. But the mistakes I made with hiring is the job description was a little confusing. So less people clicked on it. I started hiring too early. So I started hiring in May, and I had to go through like 100 different applications or like candidates. So instead of writing the book and finishing it as soon as possible, I had to waste my time hiring these people, and I only hired like 3 people. It wasn't worth it. Another mistake I made with hiring is I made the job commission based sales associate, and I should have made it either marketing associate or affiliate marketer. So yeah, those were my mistakes for hiring. Okay. Now, bigger mistakes that I made, not just around the launch, because that's what I've been talking about recently, or for the past few points. I think the book was too ambitious. Like I just said, I decided to write the book after 2 blog posts of mine kind of got some traction on Reddit and other places, but Reddit specifically. And no one asked me to write a book. So I had all these like ideas that I had from the podcast, and I decided to put them all together and release it as a book. But no one asked me to do that. So now I'm releasing a book that no one asked for to my small audience. What I should have done is start small. That's what I needed to do. I needed to so one thing that I did was I was going to add a chapter in the book about my workflow and every tool that I have used to produce the podcast. And what I did was I took this chapter out, I made it its own separate product, let people have the option to pay for it, and then I made it a lead magnet for the book. And so every time someone downloaded that, it still does this. Every time someone downloads the workflow document, 24 hours later, Gumroad sends them an email, and the email is something that I wrote saying, hey, if this gives you value, my book might give you value. And bam, it's a link to the book. So what I should have done is just the workflow document and waited, because I have their email, right? So I should have waited and promoted only the workflow document. I would have made some money because some people are willing to pay for it. And so I'm building this audience with this workflow document. Yeah. So I should have just stuck with that and then eventually wrote the book. Another thing in terms of starting small, I should have released all the blog posts, because the day I released the book, I had maybe 10 blog posts that were chapters in the book that I should have released to build the audience even more. Okay. Another thing I should have done was promote the blog posts more. So, I'm still promoting the original blog posts to grow the audience of Open Podcast. And instead of releasing the book, I should have worked on those blog posts, getting them in the eyes of more people, so that way I could collect more people's emails, had a bigger audience to release the book to. Okay. Another mistake I've made is that I kind of don't promote my content to the right audience. So I'm kind of in like the tech indie maker audience, like that's my crowd right now, and I should be promoting my content more to the podcasting community, because those are the people that I want to buy the book. Well, I want people that have an interest in starting a podcast to buy the book, and that way I'm like, this is your guide to podcasting. Okay. One thing with promotion that I made my mistake is that I didn't ask people for help when promoting stuff on Twitter or anywhere. Usually, well, I think becoming content being organically viral, I think that's fake. And so what people do is to get the initial like retweets and likes. I think other people, they either pay someone or like pay some agency to make something go viral, or they ask their friends. So what I sometimes what I do, like when I tweeted out that I'm looking for a job, I asked people to retweet it for me. I specifically sent them a link and said, hey, can you retweet this tweet for me? And so that helps me get more eyeballs on that post. And I only really do that for something that's important, and this is important for me. And I didn't ask for help, but I should have. Okay. What I'm going to do next time, I release a product. So next time, I'm going to start small. I'm going to write a chapter. I'm going to make it a product on its own. I'm going to make it a lead magnet. And then I'm going to promote that as much as I can. And then I'm going to collect people's emails. And then maybe write more. Okay. And then I'm going to plan out the release of the information. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to release the title of the book. I'm going to say, hey, I'm writing a book. After all the lead magnet stuff, hey, I'm writing a book. Then I'm going to be like, in a week, I'm going to announce the title of the book. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the cover. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the chapter list. And yeah, so on and so forth. I'm going to plan out the release. And then, as soon as I have the idea to create a product, another book, a course, I'm going to start collecting emails immediately. So here's my plan to collect emails immediately. I'm just going to put a sign-up form everywhere. I'm going to put it on the Open Podcast blog, saying like, hey, I'm thinking about releasing a book, a second book about, I don't know, technology, or another podcasting book, let's just say that. I'm going to put like second book as a page on the podcast blog. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to release a book. Maybe make a cover too. And then sign up when you want to be notified about the release of the book. Then I'm going to do that for the podcast website. Just collect emails immediately. The next thing I'm going to do in the future is announce the book within a month. So I'm going to announce it at the end of June and say the release date is July, giving myself a month so I can create some urgency and tweet about like the pre-ordering of the book, and not like annoy people. Because if I was doing that from April to July, I think that would annoy people, right? So not annoying people. All right. Give myself a month. Then release a preview chapter as a lead magnet. I already said that. I'm going to tweet more. I'm going to tweet nicer, like it's going to look aesthetically nice, my tweets from now on. I'm going to do that. And also another problem I have is like tweeting consistently, so I'm going to tweet more consistently and grow my audience on Twitter. Yes, I'm going to create more milestones. So the title, the cover, the chapter list, all things that can be made into a milestone. And then every chapter I complete will be a milestone. Release more content before announcing the product. So if I create a book based on blog posts that I've written, I'm going to release all the blog posts and promote them properly before announcing the book. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce that I have an announcement. So I'll say on Monday, hey, I'm going to announce a new product on Friday, and I'm going to keep tweeting about it for the rest of the week. And then I'm going to actually make the announcement on Friday. All right. That's all I have for this episode. Thank you for listening. If you have anything for me, you can reach out to me on Twitter, SupremeRumHam, on Telegram, SupremeRumHam, and email me, SupremeRumHam@gmail.com. If you have an interest in podcasting, you can reach out to me. Record the podcast episode that you want. Send me the audio. Send me what you want in the show notes. And I will put it on the Open Podcast Community Podcast. And that will help you get the experience of podcasting without having to go through all the hassle of setting up a podcast. Because I've already done that. Okay. And also, there's the Open Podcast blog. If you want to write about podcasting, you can write a guest post on the Open Podcast blog, and I will give you authors access so you can post it yourself. Just reach out to me and we could set that up. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.